Welcome in everybody to another deep dive this time.
Yeah. Looking forward to this.
It's just a really, really, really interesting one that I think
Yeah.
is very timely and very relevant to literally everybody
Oh, absolutely.
who uses a computer or a smartphone or
Especially today.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we're more and more reliant on these things all the time. And
Yeah. And it's funny because we're recording this remotely right now, and this whole conversation is
Yeah.
only possible through the very technology
totally.
that we're talking about
Yeah.
being potentially vulnerable.
Yeah. So this deep dive is all about cybercrime,
Yeah.
but with a bit of a twist,
Yeah.
because we're not just talking about, the technology behind it or the sort of, nuts and bolts of how hacks happen.
Right.
We're really going to focus on the
Yeah.
human element.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the human factor in cybercrime, both from the perspective of the attacker and the victim. The attacker and the victim, yes.
And the psychology behind it all.
Yeah, the psychology.
And you gave me some fantastic material to go through for this.
Oh, good. Okay.
I've got some excerpts from a cybersecurity textbook that you recommended that was, I think, geared towards kind
of entry level.
Entry level for people who are just getting into the field.
Right.
But then we also have a couple of academic papers.
Yeah, more research oriented.
Yeah, a little bit more researchy.
Right.
But then we also have some really interesting news articles about
Current events,
like actual cybercrime cases.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, and then
this is my favorite, I think.
Oh yeah.
You recommended this book called Understand the Cyber Attacker Mindset.
I did. Yeah, that's a great one.
And it's written by someone who used to actually be a
black hat hacker.
Yeah.
A penetration tester.
Yeah.
So somebody who is actually doing this stuff legally.
Yeah.
But it's the same mindset as the attackers that we
talking about.
So our mission, I guess you could say, for this deep dive is to really synthesize all of this information and come away with
a framework almost.
Yeah. A better understanding of really how the human mind plays into the world of cybercrime.
Absolutely. I think the one thing that all of those sources share is they really highlight the fact that cybersecurity isn't just about firewalls and encryption. It's about understanding the people behind the attacks and their motivations.
Right.
And how they exploit our own human nature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I found so fascinating about that book that you recommended, that Understand the Cyber Attacker Mindset. It really argues that we need to understand the why behind cybercrime, not just the how.
Yes.
Not just, how did they get into the system?
Right.
But why do they want to get into the system in the first place?
That's a great point.
What are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's crucial if we can understand what drives someone to become a cyber criminal.
Yeah.
Whether it's financial gain,
right,
a desire for revenge, or even just the thrill of the challenge. We can anticipate their actions and build more effective defenses.
So it's almost like profiling, but in the digital world.
Yeah.
We're trying to understand the psychology of the attacker.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the book actually uses the 7 deadly sins as a framework.
Oh, that's cool.
Greed, wrath, envy, and so on.
Okay.
Which I found to be a really insightful way to look at it.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that, because I'm already seeing how greed could fuel cybercrime, right?
Yeah.
Like ransomware, stealing financial data, that sort of thing.
Right.
But how do the other sins manifest in the digital world?
Well, let's take sloth, for example.
Okay.
You might not think of laziness as a driver for cybercrime.
Right.
But neglecting to install security updates or using weak passwords, that's digital sloth, and it creates huge vulnerabilities.
Oh, that's a really good point.
That attackers are all too happy to exploit.
Yeah. It's not always about malicious intent.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just about carelessness or apathy.
Exactly. And I think we've all been there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you get that notification that there's a software update.
Yeah.
Later. You just think, ooh, not now.
Later.
Later.
Yeah.
And then sometimes that later never comes.
Yeah.
That can have serious consequences.
Yeah. And and then you think about the Equifax data breach that happened back in 2017.
Oh, yeah, that was a huge one.
One of the root causes was a failure to patch a known vulnerability.
Classic digital sloth.
Yeah.
Impacted millions of people.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that even seemingly small oversights can have these huge consequences.
Absolutely. And then you've got wrath, which often manifests as destructive attacks or online harassment.
Yeah.
I think denial of service attacks that cripple websites.
Yeah.
Or social media campaigns designed to spread misinformation and so discord
Right. So it's not always about financial gain.
Right.
Sometimes it's about causing chaos or inflicting harm.
Precisely.
Right.
And the motives can be complex and intertwined.
Yeah.
A disgruntled employee might leak sensitive data out of revenge.
Right.
But then opportunistic cyber criminals could swoop in to exploit that data for financial gain.
Yeah, so it's all very much a very complex ecosystem of motivations and actions.
It is, and it's constantly evolving.
Right.
As technology changes, so too do the tactics and motivations of cyber criminals.
Yeah, so speaking of evolution, let's take a step back and look at how cybercrime itself has changed over time.
Right.
And, you know, in your notes, you specifically mention wanting to look at the Melissa virus. As like an early example. Of this. What made that one so significant?
Well, the Melissa virus hit back in 1999. And it was one of the first widespread malware attacks that really leveraged social engineering to spread.
Social engineering. The art of manipulating people into...
Art of manipulation.
Yeah, doing things they shouldn't.
Exactly.
I'm guessing that plays a huge role in today's cybercrime landscape as well.
It's absolutely central.
Yeah.
Think of it this way. Technology provides the tools, but it's human psychology that makes these attacks so effective.
Yeah. And, you know, the book that you suggested uses this analogy of phishing as phishing.
Yes.
Which I thought was brilliant.
Oh, the perfect analogy.
Can you walk us through that?
I'd love to. Yeah. So first, the attacker chooses the right bait. A message or offer that's tailored to the target's interests or vulnerabilities.
So it's not just sending out generic spam emails anymore?
No.
They're actually putting thought into, like, crafting these lures?
Oh, absolutely. They're doing their research. Understanding their targets.
Wow.
And tailoring that message to be as convincing as possible. Then they cast the line, sending out these phishing emails or messages through various channels and waiting for someone to bite.
Right.
And the hook. That's where they exploit psychological weaknesses. Maybe it's a sense of urgency, fear of missing out, or even just plain curiosity.
It's crazy how they can play on our emotions to get what they want.
It is. And once they've hooked the victim, they can reel them in. Extracting sensitive information, tricking them into downloading malware, or even transferring funds.
It's a scary thought, really.
It is.
How vulnerable we all are to these kinds of tactics.
Yeah, we really are. And it's evolving all the time.
Right.
You mentioned that social engineering has evolved alongside technology.
Yeah.
What are some of the new and sophisticated ways attackers are using social engineering today?
Yeah, what's like cutting edge scary?
Well, one trend we're seeing is an increase in deepfake technology.
Oh, yeah.
Being used in phishing attacks. And this involves using artificial intelligence to create incredibly realistic video or audio recordings of people, even CEOs or celebrities. That can then be used to trick victims into believing they're interacting with someone they trust.
That's terrifying.
It is terrifying.
Yeah, because if you saw a video of your boss asking you to transfer funds or share confidential information, you might not.
Exactly. You just do it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes these attacks so dangerous. They're preying on our inherent trust. And the people we work with and the information we see online.
Yeah.
Another trend we're seeing is a rise in spear phishing attacks.
Spear phishing.
Spear phishing, where attackers gather very detailed information about their targets.
Wow.
From social media posts to company websites.
Wow.
To craft highly personalized and convincing messages.
So it's not just about sending out mass emails anymore. They're really taking the time to tailor these attacks to specific individuals.
Absolutely. And the more information they have about you, the more convincing they can be.
Yeah. It's unsettling to think that our digital footprints can be used against us.
It is unsettling.
In this way.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the motivations behind cybercrime and tactics used, particularly social engineering.
Right.
But who are the actual people behind these attacks?
Right.
I mean, is it all just lone wolves working from their basements, or is there more to it than that?
It's definitely more complex than that. We can broadly categorize threat actors into several distinct groups. Each with their own characteristics and motivations.
Give us the rundown. What kinds of groups are out there?
So at the lower end of the spectrum, you have the opportunists, individuals or small groups who are mainly driven by financial gain. They scan the internet for easy targets exploit known vulnerabilities, and often use readily available hacking tools.
Right.
They might buy stolen credit card data on the dark web.
Okay.
And use it to make fraudulent purchases, or they might spread ransomware in the hopes of getting a quick payout.
So they're not necessarily sophisticated hackers, but they can still cause a lot of damage.
Absolutely. And because they cast a wide net, they can snag a lot of victims. Then as we move up the sophistication ladder, you have activist groups. Their motivation isn't necessarily financial gain. They're driven by political or social agendas. They might launch denial of service attacks against organizations they disagree with, or leak sensitive information to expose wrongdoing.
So hacktivism.
Hacktivism, yes.
Using hacking as a form of protest or activism.
Exactly. And their tactics can range from relatively simple website defacements to sophisticated data breaches.
And then things start to get really serious.
When we talk about organized crime, what makes them different from the other groups?
Organized crime groups operate like businesses with a clear focus on profit maximization. They're highly structured with specialized roles and sophisticated tactics. They might run large-scale phishing operations, develop and distribute custom malware, or engage in money laundering schemes.
So they're essentially running a criminal enterprise, but in the digital world.
Precisely. And they can be incredibly difficult to track down and prosecute because they often operate across international borders and use sophisticated techniques to cover their tracks.
Gosh. Okay, so we've got opportunists, activists, and organized crime. What's at the very top of the cybercrime food chain?
At the very top, you have nation-state actors.
Nation-state actors.
Yes. These are groups that are sponsored or supported by governments.
And their motivations are often geopolitical in nature. They might engage in espionage to steal intellectual property or military secrets, launch cyber attacks to disrupt critical infrastructure, or spread propaganda and misinformation to influence public opinion.
So it's cyber warfare, essentially.
In many cases, yes.
Wow.
And these groups have access to vast resources and highly skilled hackers, making them incredibly dangerous adversaries.
It's a whole different ballgame when you're talking about nation-state actors.
It is, and the lines can get blurry sometimes. A government might use a criminal group as a proxy to carry out attacks, or a criminal group might sell stolen data to a foreign government. It's a complex and ever-evolving landscape.
And speaking of complexity, there's one more category of threat actor that I want to discuss. And it's one that's often overlooked. The insider threat.
The insider threat.
And, you know, you highlighted in your research request that you were particularly concerned about this group. What makes them so unique and perhaps even more dangerous than these external threats?
What makes insider threats so challenging is that they come from within the organization itself. These are employees, contractors, or even business partners who have legitimate access to systems and data, but who use that access for malicious purposes.
And why would someone who already has legitimate access decide to turn against their own organization?
Well, the motivations vary widely. Sometimes it's driven by financial gain. An employee might steal sensitive data to sell to a competitor or engage in embezzlement. Other times it's motivated by revenge. A disgruntled employee might sabotage systems or leak confidential information to damage the organization's reputation.
It's a scary thought. The people you trust, the people you work with every day, potentially become your biggest security threat.
And it's not always about intentional malice either. Sometimes it's simply carelessness or negligence that creates vulnerabilities. An employee might fall for a phishing scam and inadvertently give away their login credentials, or they might leave their laptop unattended in a public place, allowing someone to steal sensitive data.
So it's not just about malicious insiders, it's also about human error and lapses in judgment.
Exactly, and that's what makes insider threats so difficult to prevent. You can't always rely on technology to protect you. Because the threat is coming from someone who already has legitimate access.
That brings up a really important question then. If technology alone can't stop these insider threats, what can organizations do to protect themselves?
That's a great question, and that's something that we'll delve into in the next part of our deep dive. We'll explore strategies for building a human-centric security strategy that addresses these internal vulnerabilities.
Excellent. So we've covered a lot of ground in this first part.
We have.
From the psychology of cyber attackers to the different groups that pose threats. But now I'm eager to learn how we can actually put this knowledge into practice and start building a more resilient and secure organization.
That's what we're here for.
So stay tuned as we continue our deep dive.
Looking forward to it.
Into the human element of cybercrime. We'll be right back.
See you soon.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the human element of cybercrime. We've already uncovered a lot.
Yeah, good.
From the psychology of attackers
right.
to the different groups behind these threats.
It's quite a world out there.
It really is.
Yeah.
But now let's kind of like shift gears a little bit and get a little bit practical. Like how can we actually protect ourselves and our organizations from these human adversaries?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And as you might expect, it's not a simple answer. But I think the key really lies in recognizing that cybersecurity isn't just an IT problem.
Right.
It's a human problem that requires a multifaceted solution.
Yeah, I like that framing.
Yeah.
A human problem requiring a human-centric solution.
Exactly.
So where do we even begin to build that kind of strategy?
Well, one of the most crucial aspects, and one that I know you're particularly interested in, is security awareness and education.
Right. I mean, I think we all know how important that is.
Yeah, we do. But so often it's done really poorly.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, those like dry, compliance-driven training modules.
Right, like death by PowerPoint.
Yeah, just check the box so we can say we did it.
Exactly.
Yeah, we need to ditch those.
Yeah, we need to create programs that truly engage people.
Right.
And empower them to make better security decisions.
Yeah, I'm all for ditching the boredom.
Yeah, ditch the boredom for sure.
But how do we actually make security training something that people look forward to rather than dread?
Think about it this way.
Okay.
Those same psychological principles that attackers exploit can also be used to our advantage.
Oh, okay.
When designing effective training programs.
So we're turning the tables on them.
Turn the tables.
Using their own playbook against them.
Exactly. Remember the 7 deadly sins we talked about earlier?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we can leverage those same motivations.
Right.
Greed.
Yeah.
Fear, curiosity to create training that resonates.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example.
Okay, let's take greed.
Okay.
Instead of just lecturing people about the dangers of phishing,
yeah,
we could turn it into a game or a competition.
Okay.
Challenge employees to spot phishing emails in a simulated environment.
Okay.
And offer rewards or recognition to those who perform well.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Tap into their competitive spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
Make it fun.
Make it fun. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then for fear, instead of just like resorting to scare tactics.
Right.
You know, like
doom and gloom.
Yeah, the world's going to end if you click on this link.
Right.
We can use real-world case studies to show the very real consequences of cybercrime.
Yeah, tell the story of a company that went bankrupt after a ransomware attack.
Right.
Or an individual whose identity was stolen.
Oh, yeah.
And whose life was turned upside down.
So make it personal. Make it relatable.
Yeah.
Show the human impact.
Show the human impact, exactly.
And then for curiosity, tap into people's natural desire to learn and explore.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
Offer interactive simulations where they can experience different types of cyber attacks.
Oh, cool.
Firsthand.
Yeah.
Or create scenarios where they have to solve a cybersecurity puzzle.
I love all of these ideas.
Yeah.
It's about making security training engaging, interactive and relevant to people's lives.
Exactly. And it's not just about the content.
Right.
It's also about the delivery.
Okay.
We need to move away from that death by PowerPoint approach and embrace more innovative and engaging methods.
Okay, give me some inspiration. What are some alternative ways to deliver security awareness training?
Think about incorporating things like interactive games, role-playing exercises, or even escape rooms with a cybersecurity theme.
A cybersecurity escape room.
A cybersecurity escape room, yes.
That sounds awesome.
It is, and it's a fantastic way to teach people practical skills in a fun and memorable way.
Yeah, you could have them work together to solve puzzles, identify phishing emails, or even crack codes to escape a virtual data breach.
That's great.
That sounds so fun.
It is a lot of fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sold on the escape room idea.
All right, good.
But it's not a one-and-done thing, right?
No, it's not.
Like, how do we ensure that security awareness stays top of mind for employees?
Well, repetition and reinforcement are key.
Okay.
Instead of cramming everything into one annual training session, drip feed information throughout the year.
Okay.
Using a variety of channels.
Okay.
Send out regular email reminders with tips on spotting phishing scams.
Right.
Or password best practices.
So keep it short, sweet, and frequent.
Short, sweet, and frequent, exactly.
Yeah.
Use posters in common areas
to
highlight key security messages.
Yeah.
Or incorporate security discussions into regular team meetings.
Okay.
You could even have a security champion in each department.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Who can answer questions and provide support.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're creating a culture of security awareness.
Yes.
Where it's not just something we talk about once a year, something that's integrated into our daily routines and decision-making.
Precisely. And that cultural shift is essential for building a truly resilient organization.
Yeah, so education is a big piece of the puzzle.
Huge.
But what about the technical side of things?
Okay.
What kind of measures can organizations put in place to make it harder for attackers to succeed?
Okay.
Especially when it comes to those social engineering tactics we talked about.
Well, one of the most effective measures, and one that I know is close to your heart, is implementing strong authentication.
Okay.
Particularly multi-factor authentication.
Right. MFA.
MFA.
I've heard of it, but I'm a little fuzzy on the details.
Okay.
Can you give me a quick refresher?
Of course, multi-factor authentication just adds an extra layer of security.
Okay.
By requiring users to provide more than just a password to log in.
Okay.
It could be a code sent to their phone,
right,
a fingerprint scan, or even facial recognition.
So even if an attacker manages to steal a password, they can't get in without that second factor.
Exactly. It makes it much harder
for
them to succeed. Think of it like having two locks on your front door.
Okay.
Even if a burglar picks the first lock, they're still locked out if they can't pick the second one.
That's a great analogy.
I like that one.
Yeah. I'm a visual learner, so that helps me understand it.
Okay.
Okay, so MFA is a must-have.
Yeah. I would say it's essential these days.
Yeah. What else can we do on the technical front?
Well, another important step is to implement robust email filtering and anti-phishing tools.
Okay.
These tools can help to identify and block suspicious emails before they even reach employees' inboxes.
So we're stopping those phishing emails.
Stop them at the source.
Before they can even cast their line.
Exactly. These tools analyze emails for things like suspicious links, attachments, or sender addresses, and they can either block the email entirely or flag it for further review.
That sounds incredibly helpful.
It is. It's getting more and more sophisticated all the time as well.
Especially with the increasing sophistication of phishing attacks.
Right. And you can further enhance email security by implementing DMR. DMR. Yeah, it stands for Domain-Based Message Authentication Reporting and Conformance.
Okay, I'm not going to pretend to understand
It's a mouthful.
all the technical details.
It is, yeah.
But it sounds like DMRC is another layer of protection.
It is.
For email security.
It helps to prevent email spoofing. Which is a tactic attackers use to make their phishing emails look like they're coming from a legitimate source.
Yeah. Okay, so we're filtering emails, implementing strong authentication, and educating employees about the dangers of phishing. But what about protecting the data itself?
Okay, yeah.
Like, what good are all these other measures if attackers can still get their hands on sensitive information?
That's where data protection comes in.
Okay.
We need to treat data like the valuable asset it is. And implement measures to secure it at every stage of its life cycle.
So it's not just about protecting the perimeter of our networks. It's about protecting the data itself, wherever it resides.
Precisely. And that involves a multi-layered approach.
Okay.
First, we need to encrypt sensitive data. Both in transit and at rest.
Okay.
This means scrambling the data so that it's unreadable. Without the decryption key.
So even if an attacker manages to get their hands on the data, they can't actually read it without the key.
Exactly. It's like putting your valuables in a safe that only you have the combination to.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then next we need to implement strong access controls.
Okay.
This means limiting who has access to sensitive data based on their role
right.
and need to know.
So we're not just giving everyone access to everything.
No, new to know basis only.
We're being strategic and intentional about who can access what information.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we need to regularly review and update these access controls to make sure they're still appropriate.
Okay, so encryption and access controls. What else do we need to think about when it comes to data protection?
Data backup and recovery are crucial. In the event of a ransomware attack or a data breach, you need to be able to restore your data from a clean backup.
So it's like an insurance policy for your data.
Exactly. It's about minimizing the impact of a potential data loss incident.
Okay, all of this makes sense. But I have to admit, it feels like a lot for organizations to manage.
It is.
Especially smaller businesses that might not have dedicated cybersecurity teams.
Right. You don't necessarily need a huge team and a massive budget to do this.
Okay, what are some low-cost or even no-cost things that businesses can do right now to improve their security?
Start by enabling automatic software updates.
Okay.
On all your devices. This ensures that you're always running the latest security patches and fixes.
Okay, that's an easy one. Just set it and forget it.
Set it and forget it, exactly.
Yeah.
And encourage employees to use strong, unique passwords for all their accounts.
Okay.
A password manager can be a great tool for this, as it can generate and store complex passwords for you.
So no more using password 123 for everything.
No more password 123.
Okay.
And another important step is to be mindful of phishing scams. Educate employees about how to spot suspicious emails and links. And encourage them to report anything that looks fishy.
Right, because we're all human and we all make mistakes.
We do.
So it's about building that awareness and those healthy habits.
Exactly. And finally, even if you don't have a dedicated IT security team, consider partnering with a cybersecurity consultant. Or a managed security service provider. They can help you assess your risks. Implement basic security controls. And provide ongoing support and monitoring.
So even if you don't have the in-house expertise, there's help available.
Absolutely. Cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility. And there are resources and partners available to help businesses of all sizes.
Okay, this has been incredibly helpful. We've covered a lot of ground, from building a culture of security awareness to implementing technical safeguards and protecting data.
Yeah, we've got all the bases covered.
But before we move on, I want to circle back to a topic we touched on earlier. Insider threats.
Insider threats.
We talked about the motivations behind insider attacks. But what are some specific red flags that organizations should be looking for to potentially identify an insider threat before it causes damage?
That's a great question. And while it's impossible to predict with certainty who might become an insider threat, there are some behavioral indicators that can raise red flags.
Okay, so what should we be watching out for?
Well, one of the most common signs is a sudden change in behavior. An employee who was once engaged and productive might become withdrawn and isolated. Or they might start working odd hours or accessing systems and data that they don't normally need for their job.
So changes in patterns, unusual activity.
Unusual activity.
Anything that deviates from the norm.
Exactly. Another red flag is financial stress. An employee who is facing financial difficulties might be more susceptible to bribery or tempted to steal sensitive data to sell for profit.
So be aware of any signs of financial distress or changes in an employee's financial situation.
It's important to be sensitive and respectful of employees' privacy. But it's also important to be vigilant and aware of potential risk factors.
Okay. What else should we be looking for?
Disgruntlement is another major red flag. An employee who is unhappy with their job, their manager, or the organization as a whole might be more likely to act out in a destructive way.
So pay attention to employee morale and address any grievances or concerns promptly.
Exactly. It's about creating a positive and supportive work environment where employees feel valued and respected.
And if we do notice any of these red flags, what should we do?
It's crucial to have a clear process in place for reporting and investigating suspicious activity. This might involve contacting your IT security team, your human resources department, or even law enforcement.
Right.
depending on the severity of the situation.
So don't just ignore it or sweep it under the rug.
No.
Take it seriously.
Take it seriously.
And follow the appropriate procedures.
Exactly. Early detection and intervention are key to mitigating the damage that insider threats can cause.
Okay. This has been an incredibly insightful conversation.
Good. I'm glad
you've covered a lot of ground on preventing and protecting against both external and internal threats.
Yeah, both sides of the coin.
But what happens when, despite all our best efforts, an attack does slip through the cracks?
Okay.
How do we minimize the damage and recover quickly?
That's where incident response comes in.
Okay.
It's about having a well-defined plan in place for dealing with cyber attacks.
Right. Because no matter how strong our defenses are, we need to be prepared.
We do.
For that worst-case scenario.
A robust incident response plan is like having a fire drill for cyber attacks.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It outlines the steps to take in case of an incident.
Right.
From initial detection to containment, eradication, recovery.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's break it down. What are the key elements of an effective incident response plan?
First and foremost, you need a dedicated incident response team.
Okay.
This team should consist of individuals with a variety of skills and expertise, including IT security, legal communications, and business continuity.
So we're assembling a team of specialists.
The team of specialists,
who can handle different aspects of the response.
Exactly. And this team needs to be trained and ready to act quickly and decisively in case of an incident.
Okay.
Next, you need clear communication protocols.
Right.
This outlines who to contact, how to escalate issues, and how to keep stakeholders informed throughout the incident.
So no more running around like chickens with their heads cut off.
Hopefully not clear. Communication is essential for effective incident response.
Okay, communication is key.
Yeah.
What else is crucial for a good incident response plan?
You need well-defined containment strategies.
Okay.
This involves isolating affected systems, disabling compromised accounts, and taking steps to prevent the attack from spreading further.
So stopping the bleeding, so to speak.
Stopping the bleeding, yes.
Containing the damage before it gets any worse.
Exactly. And once you've contained the attack, you need to focus on eradication.
Okay.
This involves removing the malware or other malicious code patching vulnerabilities and restoring affected systems from clean backups.
So cleaning up the mess and getting things back to normal.
Precisely. And finally, you need a plan for recovery and post-incident analysis. This involves restoring data from backups, bringing systems back online, and conducting a thorough analysis of what happened, how it happened, and what steps can be taken to prevent similar incidents in the future.
So learning from our mistakes.
Learning from our mistakes, yes.
And improving our defenses for the next time.
Exactly. Incident response is not just about reacting to attacks. It's also about proactively learning and evolving to become more resilient.
Okay, so we've got our team, our communication protocols, and our strategies for containment, eradication, recovery, and analysis.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot, but it's all essential.
Yeah, it's not enough to just have this plan on paper, right?
No, it's not.
We need to make sure it actually works.
You got to test it.
Yeah.
Regular testing and training are essential for ensuring that your incident response plan is effective.
So it's like those fire drills we talked about earlier.
The fire drills, exactly.
We need to practice so that everyone knows their roles and can execute the plan smoothly.
Exactly. Conduct tabletop exercises. Simulate different attack scenarios. And identify any gaps or weaknesses in your plan.
So we're constantly testing, refining, and improving.
Always be improving.
Yeah. Our incident response capabilities.
Because in the world of cybersecurity, it's not a matter of if an attack will happen. It's a matter of when.
That's a sobering thought.
It is, but it's the reality.
Yeah.
You got to be prepared.
This has been an incredibly valuable discussion.
Yeah.
We've covered so much ground on building a human-centric security strategy, from awareness training to technical safeguards to incident response planning.
We've covered it all.
But I know there's more to explore.
There's always more.
So let's continue our deep dive in the next part.
Okay. So
where we'll delve into some other aspects of all of this.
All right. Looking forward to it.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the human element of cybercrime.
Yeah.
We've explored the psychology of the attackers, Right.
The tactics they use, the various groups involved.
All the players on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've also discussed strategies for building a more resilient and secure organization.
Right.
From awareness training to technical safeguards to incident response planning.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It really has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's clear that cybersecurity is a multifaceted challenge that requires a holistic approach.
Absolutely. But before we wrap things up, there's one more piece of the puzzle I want to explore.
Okay.
And that's the role of technology.
Yeah.
We've been focusing a lot on the human element.
Right.
But technology must play a vital role.
It does.
In combating cybercrime. Right.
It absolutely does. And thankfully, there's a vast array of technologies available to help organizations strengthen their cybersecurity posture.
So give us the rundown.
Okay.
What are some of the key technologies
that organizations should be considering?
Well, we've got firewalls, intrusion detection and prevention systems, antivirus software, endpoint protection.
Okay.
A whole host of other security tools.
That's a lot to unpack.
It is.
Can you break it down for us and explain what each of these technologies does?
Certainly. So let's start with firewalls.
Okay.
Think of a firewall as a digital gatekeeper.
Okay.
That sits between your network and the outside world.
All right.
It examines incoming and outgoing network traffic.
Okay.
And blocks any unauthorized access attempts.
Right.
It's essentially the first line of defense against external threats.
So it's like a security guard for our network.
That's a great analogy.
Okay.
And then we have intrusion detection and prevention systems.
Okay.
Or IDPS for short.
IDPS, got it.
These systems are like security cameras for your network.
Okay.
They constantly monitor network traffic for suspicious activity.
Okay.
And can either alert security teams or automatically block potential attacks.
So they're actively looking for threats that might have already bypassed the firewall.
Exactly. They're looking for those telltale signs of malicious activity.
Okay.
Such as unusual patterns of access, attempts to exploit known vulnerabilities, or communication with known malicious servers.
Okay, so firewalls and IDPS. What about antivirus software?
Antivirus software.
I thought everybody already used that.
Most people do, but it's important to have up-to-date antivirus software.
Right.
That can detect and remove the latest threats.
Right.
Think of antivirus software as a digital immune system.
Okay.
It scans files and programs for known malware signatures.
Okay.
And can either quarantine or remove them before they can infect your systems.
So it's not just a one-time installation, you need to keep it updated.
You got to keep it updated.
To stay protected against the latest viruses and malware.
Absolutely. Malware is constantly evolving.
Right.
So your antivirus software needs to evolve as well.
Right.
And then we have endpoint protection, which takes things a step further by providing more comprehensive security.
Okay.
For individual devices like laptops, smartphones, and tablets.
Okay.
Endpoint protection solutions typically include antivirus capabilities.
Right.
As well as features like data encryption, application control, and device management.
So it's about securing each individual device that connects to our network, not just the network itself.
Precisely. And with the rise of remote work.
Right.
And the increasing use of personal devices for work purposes.
Yeah.
Endpoint protection is more important than ever before.
Okay, so we've got firewalls, IDPS, antivirus software, and endpoint protection.
Right.
What about all those other security tools you mentioned?
Okay.
What do they do?
Well, there are tools for vulnerability scanning.
Okay.
Which identify weaknesses in your systems and applications before attackers can exploit them.
Yeah.
Think of it like a home inspection.
Okay.
But for your digital infrastructure, it helps you find those cracks and leaks that need to be patched up.
So it's about being proactive.
Proactive,
And finding those vulnerabilities before they become a problem.
Exactly. And then you have tools for data loss prevention, or DLP.
DLP. Okay.
These tools help to prevent sensitive data from leaving your organization.
Right.
Whether it's through email file sharing or other channels.
So it's about controlling the flow of data.
Controlling the flow,
And making sure that confidential information doesn't end up in the wrong hands.
Precisely. And then there are tools for security information and event management, or SIEM. These tools collect and analyze security logs from various sources across your network.
Wow.
Providing a centralized view of your security posture.
Okay.
And helping you to identify and respond to threats more effectively.
So it sounds like SIEM is like having a central command center.
Yes.
For security monitoring.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
It's about having visibility across your entire environment.
Right.
So that you can see the big picture and connect the dots.
Okay, so we've got a whole arsenal
We do.
of security technologies at our disposal.
Lots of tools.
But I'm guessing it's not just about having the tools.
No, it's not.
It's also about knowing how to use them effectively.
Absolutely. Technology is only as good as the people who operate it.
Right.
You need skilled professionals who can configure and manage these tools, analyze security data,
Right.
and respond to incidents effectively.
So we need both the technology and the human expertise.
It's a partnership.
Yeah.
It's essential to have a balance of both.
Okay, so with all this talk about the human element, are people really the weakest link in cybersecurity?
That's a great question. And while it's true that humans can make mistakes and be susceptible to manipulation, they're also our greatest asset in cybersecurity.
How so?
Think about it. Humans are the ones who develop and implement these security technologies.
That's true.
They're the ones who analyze data, identify threats, and respond to incidents.
Right.
We can't rely solely on automated systems.
Right.
Because attackers are constantly finding new ways to bypass those systems.
Right. So it's not just about mitigating human error.
No.
It's about leveraging human intelligence
Yes.
and ingenuity to outsmart the attackers.
Exactly. We need to empower people, not just try to control them.
Right.
We need to create a culture where security is everyone's responsibility, not just the IT department's problem.
Yeah, that's a powerful message.
It is.
So instead of viewing people as the weakest link, we should see them as the key to a stronger cybersecurity posture.
Absolutely. It's about harnessing the power of the human element, not fearing it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, this has been an incredibly enlightening deep dive.
It has been.
We've explored the dark side of cybercrime.
We have.
The psychology of attackers, the vulnerabilities of victims, and most importantly, the strategies for building a more resilient and secure digital world.
We've learned that cybersecurity is not just about technology.
Right.
It's about understanding and addressing the human element.
Yes.
It's about building a culture of security awareness, empowering people to be the first line of defense, and working together to create a safer digital world.
So what's the one key takeaway you want our listener to remember from this deep dive?
I think the most important thing is that cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility.
Yeah.
Stay informed, be vigilant, and never underestimate the power of human ingenuity.
Yeah.
In both attack and defense.
Well said. And on that note, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the human element of cybercrime.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you found it informative and perhaps even a little bit empowering.
I hope so.
Remember, knowledge is power, and the more you understand about the threats and the strategies for protecting yourself, the safer you'll be.
Absolutely.